We are live. Good evening, Mad Monsters. My name's Peter Morton, and I am hijacking the show tonight from Sergeant Horror. And we're going to be talking about the Evil Dead franchise, past, present, future. And I've got my fantastic friends here from Bloodhound Picks. It's a rather amazing podcast that you guys should all check out. We've got Kyle, Craig, and Josh. How are you guys all doing?
Good. Just surviving and holding up, I guess, the best we can be.
Well, that's the main thing, right? It's just important to survive in this day and age.
Yeah.
Yes, wear a mask.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Make sure you're wearing your mask, guys. In fact, I think we got some cool designs going on in our Mad Monster store. If you haven't visited that in a while, check out www.madmonster.com. We've got some new t-shirts actually yesterday, so make sure you go visit the store there. We're going to be talking about Evil Dead. So I think it's probably best that we start at the beginning. First of all, you guys have all seen the movies, right?
Of course.
Think so. Which ones are those again? Yeah.
Josh, you haven't seen Evil Dead?
I have no idea what we're talking about right now.
He's full of shit.
Yeah, we see.
Can I still sit in on all this though?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
okay.
You should throw your objective opinions for somebody who hasn't, who's not aware of what we're talking about.
Cool.
I'd be intrigued to hear. So yeah, the Evil Dead started off as a short movie from Sam Raimi. I believe it's called Within the Woods. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Within the Woods. Now this movie was shot for, I think, $1,600.
Yeah.
And it was done as a piece to show to potential investors to make a feature film. Have you guys seen Within the Woods?
Yes.
I have seen that.
Yeah, I checked it out a few years ago. I think they included it in an anniversary release of one of the DVDs. It's a pretty interesting little piece. Obviously incredibly low budget, but it's you can see the styles from Sam Raimi, and then he eventually went on to make The Evil Dead. Now this movie is a strange one because it's really low budget for a feature film, but its pace and the way it's shot and edited. They shot this movie in Tennessee, in the woods, all on location. It's an intense experience. Do you guys remember when you first saw it?
Yeah, so my brother is 10 years older than me, a huge horror fan. So I was first introduced actually with Army of Darkness at a very young age. And then when I was, I'd say 9, he showed me. And just, I can't remember the full.
Breaking up a little bit on us.
Memory with her stabbing with the pencil into the ankle. I remember vividly as a 9-year-old child sitting in our living room watching that.
It's going to be scarred onto your subconscious, I think, at the age of 9.
Yeah.
Thanks, big bro. Appreciate it. How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, this is actually my dad bought this for me on VHS. We were like moving to a new town, and it was like I guilted him into it. And I think I was like 11, and I can remember watching this alone in my room and just being scared shitless. And then it was just this VHS that I would have with my tapes that I was like afraid to watch alone, pretty much.
Yeah, I remember the cover art on the VHS was on both of them actually. Evil Dead 1 and 2 was really amazing, pretty impressive. And Josh, you haven't seen it, but are you planning to watch it based off of our descriptions?
I might give it a shot. I don't remember the first time. I'm probably a lot older than everyone in this room, so I have a vague recollection of what might have been the first time, and it was love at first sight. So, you know, I mean, if there's one thing I can take away, it's that.
1980, the movie came out. Were you old enough to see it at the cinema?
I'm not that old, Peter.
No, I didn't think you were. The movie actually was pretty controversial in Europe. And in the 80s in England, we went through this whole video nasties thing, and it got banned. And I think I don't think censors had actually watched the movie. I think they were banning it based on the concept more than anything. And in Germany, it caused a massive uproar. And it had a pretty unlikely savior, actually. Well, not an unlikely savior in the form of Stephen King, who kind of stepped in and really championed it. Stephen King was then the one who introduced Sam Raimi to Dino De Laurentiis. And Dino stepped in and helped finance the Evil Dead 2, which is, in my personal opinion, a better movie than the first one. Evil Dead 2, things go kind of batshit crazy. This movie is really strange because it's a reboot, right, of the first film. It's almost like, I mean, same characters,
in a way,
yeah. I wanted to, because there's the which I still haven't yet, where you watch, was it Evil Dead 1, then skip the first 15 minutes or something of Evil Dead 2, and then start there. It's some way to watch the whole as one complete story instead of going back. But yeah.
Oh, interesting. So there's like a chronological way to watch it that makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because for me, when I first saw Evil Dead 2, I was kind of thinking, haven't I seen this movie already? You know, isn't it the same characters, the same film? Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's when he gets hit and goes through the trees. You skip to that part of Evil Dead 2, because, and then Evil Dead 1 is technically everything before that, or some.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because Evil Dead 1's the tree rape, right?
Yeah. Well, Evil Dead 2 has it as well, kind of.
It has its own tree rape, but I think the tree rape in Evil Dead 1 is the thing that got it. Really hit upon by the censors. Well, yeah, Evil Dead 2. Any of you guys caught that on the big screen before?
No, unfortunately not.
So I was able to watch it at the Chinese where we were working, because I had to do testing very early in the morning, and I had the Blu-ray in my backpack, and we had to test the equipment, and that's the only Blu-ray we had. And so it was probably like 6 a.m, and I threw it on and watched it in one of those theaters to then go over everything. But
the whole thing, beginning to end?
Yeah. Yep.
Fantastic. At 6 o'clock in the morning. What day was it?
It was sometime it was like a Wednesday at 6 a.m, because I remember it towards the end. The owners and stuff were doing a tour of showing people, and they walked into me watching Evil Dead towards the final little bit, or Evil Dead 2 towards the final little bit.
Did you have your feet up with popcorn and soda and everything?
No, I was probably standing randomly in the back looking at speakers to make myself look busy at that time.
Oh, Scott's with us. Hey, Scott, how you doing? Sorry, I just realized we've got some comments coming through. Yeah, but guys, by the way, if you're commenting, jump in, say hi. Tell us about your experience with the Evil Dead films. We'd love to hear what you think of them. Yeah, Evil Dead 2 really kind of cranks up the crazy to a next level. And this movie is like beloved fans of the horror genre. You know, I can't think of any horror movie fan I've met that doesn't like Evil Dead 2.
Well, I was telling you a little bit, Peter, that I'm from, well, I'm from Michigan. And so it became this thing where if you were from Michigan and a horror fan, that it's like you had to love Evil Dead. You know, I knew more probably about that than Friday. You know, it didn't matter if I watched Friday the 13th or like Scream or, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like you have to know Evil Dead because, you know, it has Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. They're from Michigan. They're Michiganders. And so it's this huge thing that I don't know if it still is for, you know, kids coming up now, but during my time, that was it.
Local heroes.
Yeah.
Local heroes who went to Hollywood and broke it big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Armies of Darkness follows 1992, is it? Comes along. And I think this is my first introduction to the Evil Dead franchise, Armies of Darkness. And initially, Sam Raimi wanted to make Armies of Darkness straight after the first movie. But it was Dino De Laurentiis who said, oh, you know, let's stick to what we know, more of the same, I guess. So yeah, he was eventually able to do that in the early 90s with Army of Darkness. And again, this movie kind of is so much fun. They're all so much fun. But this one in particular, I think, is the time setting and everything is just takes it to a whole next place. So this was the first one you saw, Craig, as well.
Yeah, this was the first I saw, and yeah, I think, I mean, even to this day, it's still, well, it's the one that people quote the most in my mind, or, you know, really brings Bruce, or the character of Ash, as like more of a character instead of, you know, this guy facing the Evil Dead that, you know, he has his Hail to the King and Groovy, and even though he says it in Evil Dead 2, but yeah, for me, I watched it on repeat on VHS for a long time, and then I haven't actually seen it in a while now because I think I watched it so much that I watch the other ones now if I want to get that fix.
Yeah, it's at this point that it becomes catchphrasey, I guess, and this is my broomstick. How about you, Josh? Have any of us seen these movies in like chronological order as they were released? Because
I think I might have.
I
think I just don't remember.
He went in reverse as well. He started with Army of Darkness, then went to Evil Dead, which is one of his all-time favorites. But yeah, I think that's the best way of doing it. Actually, is if you start with Army of Darkness and go backwards. And there's a very good reason that I believe that's the best way of doing it. Please share it with us.
because that's just, you know, the reverse order of quality. If you start with Army of Darkness, go to Evil Dead 2, then go to Evil Dead, you know, you're on to something by going in that order.
Yeah.
Interesting. And yeah, I guess if you like Armies of Darkness, you're going to love the others, right?
For my money.
And then Kyle, Armies of Darkness, first time you saw it, what was your takeaway from that movie?
I fucking loved it. Like Craig, it was just one I remember in like, what, 8th grade, probably freshman of high school, somewhere in there, just watching that movie, showing that movie to my friends, and then getting Bruce Campbell's book because of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If chins could kill, right?
Yeah.
Is it a good read? I've never read it, believe it or not.
It's great.
Yeah.
It would be dated now in terms of some of the advice of financing a movie, but a lot of the making of the movie, and I mean, it's chock full of just like, how did they do, you know, all the special effects, all the tricks they used throughout all the movies. So it's a great read in that respect if you're interested in filmmaking or being a filmmaker or anything like that.
And he was consistently damaged as well, wasn't he, across the course of all the movies? Poor old Bruce. A few years ago we had Bruce at one of our conventions. He's done several of them now, but he was at the New Orleans convention, and I was asked to go up and get him from his hotel room for his Q&A, his performance. So I went up to the hotel room, and there was an overwhelming smell of incense and very kind of tranquil music. And I knocked at the door, and there was a kind of cloud of puff of smoke, and he said, "I will be down shortly." And then that was it. The door closed, and he came down dressed all in white and stepped onto the stage, and he gave one of the best kind of Q&As I think I've ever seen. He just held the audience. So he's quite a character. And obviously he's been working with Sam since I think they were kids, right? They were like 5 or 6 years old when they first started working together. They've known each other basically their whole lives.
Yeah, because they both grew up around Royal Oak, in the suburbs of Detroit.
And the suburbs of Detroit, are these inspiring places to make movies?
No, in my opinion, I think Detroit in itself is, the suburbs are just kind of where, like, initially where all of the people that worked in the auto industry that didn't want to be in the city anymore and could afford it, they kind of went off into the suburbs. That's what a lot of Michigan is.
Wasn't Don't Breathe?
Yeah, that was
in Detroit as well.
Yep. And then It Follows was Detroit, and
so yeah, it's definitely got a bit of horror credentials to it.
Yeah.
Don't Breathe was a Sam Raimi produced movie as well, wasn't it? I think it was. Well, then that brings us on to 2013 and the most recent kind of incarnation in the movie franchise, which again is, I think they call it a soft reboot. I'm not really sure, but it could almost be a direct sequel to the original Evil Dead movie. I saw this when it came out, and I was really kind of blown away by how gutsy it was. I only saw it once. I haven't rewatched it since, because I remember thinking by the end of it, I was like, I'm not going to be revisiting that for a little while. It was pretty intense, but it wasn't a bad film, and I remember coming out of it thinking, whoa, that delivered. You guys all caught that one?
Yeah, well, I watched it actually with my brother and my dad, and we went to go to the theaters to watch it, and I remember it was very intense, and maybe it was one of those nostalgia things, but when I first watched it kind of was that, oh, that's not my Evil Dead type of mentality, or it's too much, and then it's one that I found, I think I think about it more now than as I've gotten older, and that it keeps going up in my list of, I'll go to rewatch it a lot, surprisingly, even though it's probably more intense than the Sam Raimi ones.
Interesting. I haven't watched it since. Josh, how about you? Have you seen it a couple of times?
Yeah, I have seen it a couple of times. I got an interesting relationship with that movie because when I first saw it, it was very upsetting to me, in that I was just, this is the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. It upset me. I'm not gonna lie, but it's funny because now I love it. It made like my decade list.
Wow.
And going through and I know we're gonna get to this later, but I'm still astounded that Fede Alvarez never got the opportunity to make another one, just because it is extremely high quality, and not to mention the fact that it made who knows how many millions of dollars too. And you think that alone would be enough for him to get another chance, but for whatever reason it didn't happen. But yes, I love it, and I used to hate it, so
why do you think on your initial watch then you didn't like it?
I think honestly it was kind of, I was like having Nightmare on Elm Street reboot flashbacks to an actual literal piece of shit, and just something that was so dear to me, and why are you doing this, and oh my god, there's no way you could possibly do this correctly, every kind of bad thing you could think about it even before you saw it. And then so it was a learning curve for me, obviously, because I came to realize that it is in fact excellent. And again, I wish Fede Alvarez would have got another shot at doing another one.
So you were psychologically predisposed to dislike it when you went in.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Fede Alvarez, he did Don't Breathe, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how in 2020, or even a few years before this, good movies do just kind of come and go with kind of little fanfare. And when they are truly excellent, you kind of expect them to have a bit more kind of critique. I don't know, something behind them to give them, push them to a wider audience. But I guess that's the day and age we're living in, where yesterday's news comes around.
Well, there's so much now that I think it's just, it's hard to kind of keep focus on one thing, where there's the new next best movie the following week, and I mean it's just, and with every single streaming platform and everything, I can't even watch everything that's all the great movies that are out anymore. It's just too much, basically.
It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah.
How about you, Carl? What do you think of 2013?
I was kind of like you. I was a little trepidatious coming in, but I was pretty impressed with it. But I haven't revisited it for whatever reason. But I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think they take her up there to do. She's an addict, isn't she? And they take her up there to hold an intervention. And I think that was the stuff that was at the start of the movie that is pretty intense. Once the the mystical stuff, the supernatural stuff kicks in, that's when you're like, whoa, okay, now we're in that zone. But yeah, that dramatic stuff at the beginning is a bit kind of hard hit. I think. Not a lot of people, I don't think, were expecting that from the Evil Dead movie.
Yeah.
To be challenged. And then we've got Ash versus the Evil Dead, which I've seen a few episodes. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not sure how it's continuing the story.
So it kind of, because they don't acknowledge Army of Darkness at first. I thought because of rights, from what I heard, but then they do later on in the series, they acknowledge Josh, I know, probably has rewatched it more than me, so he would know. But yeah, I don't think they acknowledge the time travel part in the second season. But
not in relation to Army of Darkness, though. So for whatever reason, even though Raimi and company created everything in Army of Darkness, like the S-Mart, right, where Ash works, they can't use that. So they had to rename the store. And yeah, it's very strange business, and that anything that had to do with Army of Darkness could not be included in the series.
That makes sense because it's a Universal picture, so they owned all that. Obviously.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, Universal helped produce it, didn't they? So they obviously own a bunch of different rights to it. Because the end of Army of Darkness, isn't he like literally spinning through? Because there's several different endings to that film, isn't there?
Yeah, the main one is he goes back to, for those, I'm going to spoil for those that haven't seen the movie.
I guess give a countdown.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen Army of Darkness, if you're listening to this or watching this and you haven't seen Army of Darkness, we are about to spoil the ending. So hands over your ears, do whatever you got to do.
And I'll give a thumbs up when we're done.
All right.
So yeah, the main kind of ending is that he ends up back in the present working at S-Mart, and then a deadite comes and he kills it, is basically the in short. But then there was that he takes too many sips of the vial and he ends up in this kind of post-apocalyptic future that then they acknowledge that's kind of how it ends the series. Again, for those of you that haven't watched the series either. but
he's like, ah.
yeah.
I mean, that was the ending that we got in England on VHS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the one we got. So I saw the happy ending.
Yeah.
I guess
Later.
Yeah. So it's strange how they did it for different markets like that.
So I guess spoiler free now.
Spoiler free. So yeah, Ash versus Evil Dead. I haven't like delved into it probably as much as I should have done, but I've heard it's very good. 2 seasons or 3 seasons?
3. I know they ended it how they were planning on it, but I think they were hoping it would have went more seasons or some. From what I remember, they were planning a couple more seasons, but they're still able to end it, the way they planned, I guess.
Okay, so if you go to IMDb and you look up the in development projects from Ghost Pictures, we've got Evil Dead 2, which strikes me as being the sequel to Fede Alvarez's film from 2013. There's no mention yet of the movie that Bruce Campbell was talking about, which initially I think he said was called Evil Dead Now, and now they changed the title to Evil Dead Rise. And all we know about this, excuse me, is that it's set in a skyscraper. Now this sounds pretty interesting to me. I think you could have a lot of fun with this concept. Which is the Demons movie that's is it Demons 3?
Demons 2.
Yeah, I think Demons.
Yeah.
Demons 2 is in the movie theater, isn't it? Or is it?
No, Demons. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one's the movie theater, and then I believe the second one is like an apartment complex or something.
Okay, yeah. So we could have shades of that going on, I guess.
Yeah.
Who knows? Bruce Campbell could just be, blowing hot air, literally.
He's done it before with a lot of projects, so.
Yeah. But it's it's definitely an interesting take on it. I think I'd watch an Evil Dead movie set in a skyscraper.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What do you think? Where do you think the franchise can go from here? What would be the best place?
I mean, I think that sounds interesting to me. I think what Bruce Campbell said about it, that kind of you need to hold on to, is about making it very much, these are kind of regular people. And I know there was some article I read, I'm paraphrasing, of course, years ago that kind of talks about the Evil Dead franchise, and it talks about Reggie from Phantasm and why they're loved so much, and that it's because they're the working class hero, or Ash is the working class hero, where you kind of have these people down on their luck that are saving the day or whatever. And I mean, as long as they keep that kind of element and don't just make it into another, you get a bunch of good looking people that I don't know, bland or whatever, like any sort of run of the mill slasher trope, I think.
Yeah, it seems to be something that's dying out. That working class hero.
Yeah.
The John McClane. Even the Indiana Jones has a bit of that about him, doesn't he? The cool, charming. It's something that doesn't seem as popular anymore. I don't know. I mean, I still prefer to watch movies with people I can identify with.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, Kyle? Where do you think Evil Dead could go from here?
I don't know. I think, I definitely think the urban skyscraper idea is interesting. It would be kind of cool if they explored even more time travel, because I don't know where they would go, but the medieval time period is such an interesting one to maybe even explore in a darker way than Army of Darkness is. But it would be cool to see it in different settings for sure.
In space?
I'd watch it.
That's where all the great franchises go.
They have to go there at some point, don't they?
Yeah.
Space on the hood.
Yeah.
I think Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street have yet to go to space, but you never know, right?
Yeah. We can only hope.
And Josh, seeing as you are a passionate fan, what would be your ideal route for the Evil Dead franchise?
I mean, it is one of those things where I think technically the story could take place anywhere and it would, quote unquote, work. As long as you have the Necronomicon, you're going to have people, getting possessed. So sure, set it in a skyscraper. I mean, that can work. I'm not too attracted to the idea, but I think also because, even with obviously the first movie, obviously the second movie, even in the show, we had the cabin in the woods location, which to me, that cuts deeper than anything else in terms of like a horror aspect, a terror aspect. But is it necessary? No, of course it isn't. I mean, I think you could set an Evil Dead story in any location. Fuck, you could set it in space, right? Let's say you have a bunch of astronauts going to the moon. And somehow or another, they have a Necronomicon, right? I mean, that shit's just not going to end well for anybody. And we all know how it's going to go, but seeing it in that type of situation, in that type of setting, I mean, sure, that works.
Well, there was
maybe we should collab and pitch one.
Yeah, there was. I know, Josh, you've read. There's Grant Morrison, the comic writer. He did Nameless, I think which is a graphic novel, and it takes place on the moon, and it has a bunch of Lovecraft, Evil Dead kind of elements to it.
Huh.
It's really it's intense, and it's a short little story, but I guess you could make it work if we're pitching the joking in space idea.
We've got Michael here saying the Old West, Cowboys, Indians incorporate skinwalkers. Could be an interesting setting for it, for sure. For me, it feels like the skyscraper thing's been done.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I just feel that we have seen that movie before, or a movie like it.
Well, I think too, I mean, Evil Dead is one of those series that can be loved all over the world, but there is, maybe it's because I grew up there again, but it at its core, it is very Midwesterner. And a lot of people, kind of when they paint the Midwest, it's, it's like this very Leave It to Beaver, or, this very bland area, or, I mean, luckily you have films like Fargo, but like in its delivery and the violence, but then also that subtle, I don't know, just everything about it is kind of fits into that culture. So it might be hard for it to transport. You'd really kind of have to change the chemistry, I think, as Josh was kind of saying with the cabin in the woods aspect, but the chemistry of what makes Evil Dead.
Yeah, I guess the cabin in the woods setting has been so done though.
Yeah.
It? So that's why they can't possibly go back unless they're gonna, revitalize it. Like, underneath the cabin in the woods, you're literally in hell or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But good evening, Chad. Chad's joining us. Hey, Chad.
Hello.
So yeah, we're chatting with Kyle, Craig, and Josh from Bloodhound Picks. You guys, you run a weekly podcast, right?
Yes. For the most part, we post. Lately, we've been posting multiple times a week because we're doing the year-long campaign called Horror Not Fear, where we're kind of promoting positivity and inclusion into the horror community. And yeah, anybody can kind of join along, where we support and make it, if you want to try something out, then we support it, type of thing. And so we've been doing all these random segments that we normally would never do. We release them on Fridays, and then Tuesdays we do our normal episodes where we talk about obscure movies, independent movies, or films that, as we call, only a mother could love, where it's basically critics and fans despise, and we have to try and find a way to talk kindly about them. And it usually sometimes works, not too much. But then we do stuff like Industry, which you were a part of, Peter, where we kind of talk to people that work in the industry and like what it's really like in a kind of very authentic way, instead of
Yeah, it's a great podcast. I've listened to a few episodes now. It's a lot of fun. I hope you guys check it out. But over this time period where a lot of us have been locked down, what's the one standout movie you think you've seen that's really blown you away?
Well, I just finally watched In Fabric. I guess that's the only one I can think of right now, which I enjoyed a lot. It's Ben Wheatley's company. It's 2018, and
the witches, right?
And the killer dress, but it actually it works, and it's very artistic, and it's done by Peter Strickland, who did Barbarian Sound Studio, and then what was it, the Duke of Burgundy. And
he's an interesting director, very stylized.
Yeah, and it kind of has that British black comedy that's very dry and deadpan, and then some horrific elements, and it feels like 70s European films as well, the way it's shot. It's a lot of fun, and I've kind of been, for some reason, this whole quarantine, been obsessed with Hammer films and kind of all around that period. I don't know why, but I've been watching a lot of those.
It's a good thing to be obsessed with.
Yeah.
Kronos. Have you seen Kronos before?
Yes.
Captain Kronos, or the
Captain Kronos, yeah, the vampire hunter.
Not yet. It's on my list. I've been trying to find where to get it, but that's the next one. And then Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde are the.
Oh yes, the classics. I think we've been challenged here. Matt has asked us who directed the original Poltergeist. Go. Come on, Matt.
Hooper, man.
Well, interesting story behind it. From what I've heard, Toby Hooper was liking those exotic cigarettes during his time on the set of Poltergeist, and Steven Spielberg apparently stepped in and directed a huge chunk of it. So but Toby Hooper was credited as the director of the film. Actually, a friend of mine recommended a movie Toby Hooper did, I think, after Poltergeist, called Life Force. Have you guys seen that one?
Yes, I fucking love Life Force.
Yeah, my friend spoke highly of it.
It's the last movie I saw before all of this happened.
Really?
Actually. Yeah, in 70 millimeter. Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Wow, you saw it on the big screen?
Yes. I think it's Patrick Stewart's first movie, maybe?
Yeah, he's really young in it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is it before Excalibur?
Maybe not. Because I think it's like 80, because it's after Poltergeist. So
so Poltergeist was 81, wasn't it? I think Excalibur was 81 as well. So
yeah, Life Force is 85.
That. Yeah.
85, okay.
Yeah. But that actually kind of goes to the, it might be one of those things where whoever directs it, that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are so attached, are ingrained in the Evil Dead franchise or series that, they won't be directing it, but they'll definitely be, swaying what happens or some of the choices, I feel.
Yeah, they definitely will. That's what I was going to say about Poltergeist in defense of Toby Hooper. It is, you opened that can of worms.
Kyle loves Toby Hooper.
I do. But Poltergeist was a story written by Steven Spielberg and produced by him. So, and it's fucking Steven Spielberg. So of course he's going to have like a pretty big hand in the making of that. So just throwing that out there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, from the get-go of Poltergeist, you could feel the Spielbergian elements, the suburban setting, the family, the bustling family, and Poltergeist is a fucking brilliant film, no matter who directed it. And Toby Hooper, I feel that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is such a masterpiece that he never really, I guess, topped that, or he never went on to make movies as comparable as
in our podcast we talked about Kyle for his week had us watch
Spontaneous Combustion.
If you've seen that one, it's Toby Hooper and Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going to Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
You should see it just for Brad Dourif. He's pretty amazing, but it's quite a mess.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of his films tended to be that way. It's like he kind of just gave up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I never got a chance to grace a film set with him, so I'm not sure what he was like on a film set. But I mean, watching Texas Chainsaw, that movie's a challenging watch. So I can only imagine what it must have been like to shoot. Matt saying Toby set up the shots, the beard would adjust, finalize, and direct the actors. I mean, that's going to be a massive blow, isn't it? If you're Toby Hooper, you got Steven Spielberg on set just saying, "I'm going to take care of this." Yeah, drive me fucking crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Kyle, imagine how much better Spontaneous Combustion would have been if Hooper would have had Steven Spielberg on set.
I don't think Spielberg could save that fucking movie. It's about a guy like lighting on fire from inside. I don't.
He'd had his work cut out for him.
Yeah. You need to start with the script.
Yeah.
And that is Brad Dourif the one who's combusting?
Yeah.
How can they make a whole movie of this?
The story is that his parents were in a testing facility for a nuclear to see if a bunker could survive a nuclear explosion, and then he's the product of.
Well, they were also they were like giving them drugs, like anti-radiation drugs. So they didn't know that the side effects would be their child is born with this like ability to start shit on fire.
Combust.
Yeah.
John Landis is in it too.
And he combusts.
Yeah.
Spontaneously.
Oh.
I mean, I can't believe I've never heard this film. Is it easily available?
I think it's on YouTube or something. Yeah.
It's definitely on YouTube. It was on Prime, Amazon Prime, but I don't think it is anymore.
Maybe it was just banned in England because it was so bad.
Yeah, probably.
It's like, we're not going to no spontaneous combustion. No, I don't think so.
No, it is. I saw Matt was saying, yeah, it kind of is a Firestarter ripoff in a way. It's a lot of movie ripoff. There's like so many here you can see they took different movies. Like, okay, well, let's just make it like this.
Well, Matt's also waiting on a reboot of Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. I haven't seen that one either. I mean, you guys have thrown some obscure movies into the mix. Like this. So bad they're good movies, right?
Debatably, yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how many whiskeys you've had beforehand. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, the Evil Dead Rise is probably looking to come out in 2021, 2022, depending on if they ever, even go ahead with making it. Bruce Campbell tends to serve as producers on these movies now, so we're not even sure if his involvement is going to be anything beyond that. But I would say that, the Evil Dead movies, they kind of have to have Bruce Campbell, right? Yeah. He has to be a part of them to make them officially Evil Dead. They even tagged him in at the end of the 2013.
Yeah.
He had to come in with his catchphrase, didn't he, at the end of the credit sequence. And that for me was just, fan service. You could have called that movie anything. Called it Book of the Dead or something. I mean, Book of the Dead was the original title of the first Dead movie, but so who knows? Do we think this is a go? Do we think it's going to go?
I mean, I think because they're also talking about what he was going to lend his voice to a video game or a couple video games too. I mean, I think something's a go. They'll inevitably make another Evil Dead film. And I'm not sure which one, what will actually happen with it, but Yeah, something will be made.
Well, I just hope it's not another reboot. I'm just so sick of these reboots.
Yeah.
I mean, just re-release. I was saying this the other night when we were talking about Halloween. I was saying, re-release the originals on the big screen. Give them a pristine print. Give it a bit of fanfare. Even include a special, introduction from one of the stars or something. But re-release the originals on the big screen. Give a next generation a chance to appreciate why these movies are so good. I don't think we need another reboot of another great film.
Well, I know the series, they kind of dropped it towards the end, and I've had a chat with Josh about it, but the series, they bring in 2 new characters who they were basically prepping to replace Ash, and people loved them, or the fans loved them. It was Pablo and Kelly, and they were set up. It was great, and then kind of by the end of the series, they just pushed them to the side, and then I don't think they're using them anymore. But it feels like, I know people argue it all the time who have seen the series, where why don't you just use, Pablo and Kelly, because they already have this fan base, they're connected to Ash, and I'd be fine with that almost, because I enjoyed watching them towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the show wasn't doing great with ratings, so it's probably why it got cancelled. But even if they took those characters and I guess brought them into the movie world, then at least it'd be kind of related. And I don't know. I'm after 2013's Evil Dead, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to hold out hope that whatever they do, as long as Raimi and Campbell are involved, then they're going to be doing something right. Be interesting if they brought the Drag Me to Hell, for example, and brought that universe, kind of crossed it into the Evil Dead universe or something along those lines. Maybe stay away from that Oz movie. Maybe Evil Dead in Oz.
Yeah.
There you go. That's
there we go. They could go into the other world type of thing. Somebody could end up there.
Yeah, why not?
Basically, like a Hellraiser 2 kind of Hellbound type of thing.
Deadites could possess Munchkins, and I mean, guys, we're onto something here. I really think we are. And I think the Wizard of Oz is public domain as well, so we can do what we like with it.
Yeah.
Pitch.
Also set in space. There we go.
Munchkins in space. Possess Munchkins in space.
Yeah.
I'd watch it. A little bit more information about Space Hunter here. Space Hunter, dig this. Molly Ringwald, Ernie Hudson, and Michael Ironside and Ernie Hudson, I'm in.
Me too.
In a Mad Max meets Star Wars sci-fi action flick. Early 80s marvelous trash. That's from Matt.
Maybe we'll watch.
Yeah. Guys, maybe you should do this on your podcast.
I know. I think we might.
I think we have to now.
Yeah.
And Michael's also saying, how about Evil Dead and the Salem Witch Trial time travel mashup? Verily, the Ash community would attend in droves. Guys, speaking in medieval tongue there, I see, Michael. Very good.
I have my witch cup, so it works perfectly.
Is that Black Phillip?
Yeah. Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? So there we go.
That's fantastic. Where'd you get that from?
My birthday. I don't even know my wife got it for me. Which then I had her watch it because she's a women in gender study grad student, and I was like, oh, it's a feminist theme, and I show it to her, and then I forget that there's all of the horrible things happening to children, and it just did not turn out well for me because she's also a social worker, so that works with children, so that didn't work.
That's a pretty interesting date night movie.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're going to wrap things up shortly. Any final thoughts? Would you like to discuss anything else or talk about anything else?
I know. Well, Kyle went to see. He just saw Bruce Campbell at that drive-in he did.
Yeah, I saw him at a drive-in in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. It was pretty great Q&A, and then they showed Evil Dead and some other stuff. But yeah, he didn't really say anything more about the movie than we've already mentioned, other than it was a new setting and a new family, whatever. But it's always great to see Bruce Campbell for sure in person.
Did he arrive in a cloud of smoke and a white suit?
He arrived after like a storm rolled in, pretty intense thunderstorm.
He's just he's walking showmanship, that man.
Yeah.
He even summons storms. It's pretty amazing.
Well, I watched there's a documentary on Joe R. Lansdale that I watched, and they talk mainly about him, but also Bruce Campbell because of their work with Bubba Hotep. And they say that they're kind of they connected really because they're these two guys that have stayed on the outskirts of Hollywood and kind of, I don't know, they talk about them remaining authentic because they've always, been those type of people that never got into the Hollywood film industry. They've always just kind of done their own thing.
Yeah, he definitely strikes me as somebody who's wise to bullshit.
Yeah.
And he's dabbled. He's pretty much appeared in all Sam Raimi's films, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Spider-Man movies. He was in Oz as well. And I would imagine that offers were there for him to, go big time at one point. But yeah, it's interesting that he never has kind of leapt in with both feet. He's always played these kind of quirky, interesting character roles. That's why people love him so much.
Yeah.
You literally mention his name to anyone, and if they know him, they're gonna have a smile on their face.
Yeah.
He just kind of musters up that appreciation for people.
Well, I know for years, I was going to say for years he was trying to make. I think they kind of made a version of it. What was it, like the Expendables of horror? That was his big project that he always was talking about. Whereas,
oh yeah, he did talk about that at the Q&A, not about the Well, he said he wants to instead do like the one he's working on now is Bruce versus Frankenstein, but he said he basically wants to make a film where he's fighting each major monster, like Dracula, the Wolfman, whatever. That would be interesting.
So kind of like My Name is Bruce.
Basically,
it's a sequel to that.
Okay.
Yeah, they would all be like sequels where he accidentally defeats whatever monster.
That could be interesting. I'm not sure if Universal are going to relinquish control of their dark universe that easily and just allow Bruce to start beating the shit out of Dracula and the Wolfman.
I think they only own the likeness to like their design, or maybe that's not right. I don't know. I feel, can't you like, because like the source material is now public domain, I think, like Dracula, Frankenstein, the original stories.
I'm not sure if Dracula is. I think the Stoker family still have some sort of hold over it. But certainly like Dr. Jekyll, I think that is.
Yeah.
Frankenstein quite possibly as well, yeah. So great for Bruce.
I did see that he wants to have Kane Hodder be Frankenstein.
Okay.
That fits.
So
yeah.
I mean,
we had
killing Frankenstein and Jason at the same time.
Kane was on the show a few weeks ago. We should have asked him about that. See if we can get hold of him again. Call him up. They did do like Expendables of horror recently though. I swear they did. I can't remember who was in it, but it's set at a con, isn't it? It's set at a convention.
Yeah.
And then they did that.
I can tell Josh isn't impressed.
They did that one Death House too, which was kind of whereas like they got Barbara.
Oh, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. where it was Dee Wallace, Barbara Crampton, Kane Hodder. It was supposed to be Tony Todd, like a bunch of them.
Icons of horror.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We've given Sam Raimi some good ideas here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's watching.
You know,
Yeah.
You know he's written all this shit down.
Yeah.
he is. He's there right now. Like, fucking, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. So yeah, if we see any Munchkins show up in space, holding the Necronomicon, you heard it first. You saw it first. Right, when's your next episode airing?
We have one coming out. Cal just posted an interview that we did, and then we have some of our special segments on Friday, which I think we'll be doing our horror or not, where Josh will talk about movies that are they're always argued whether they're a horror movie or not, and he's talking about 3 Guillermo del Toro films. So that will be one of
Okay.
But every Tuesday and for a while, at least every Tuesday and Friday, we bring out new stuff.
Well, definitely going to tune in to listen to them. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to all of you guys who are listening. Remember, go check out Bloodhound Pics on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And make sure you pop to the Mad Monster store and check out our new designs, www.madmonster.com. Thank you all. Have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah. Thank you.